If you think about the face of peace and nonviolence, odds are you imagine Mahatma Gandhi. He's often introduced with grand titles such as Father of the Nation, Mahatma, the man who took down the British Empire without throwing a single punch. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi led India to independence through nonviolent resistance, inspired civil rights movements across the globe, and became one of the most recognized faces in modern history. But strip away the status, there's a much stranger, much more human story underneath. One that involves a rebellious teenager, a marriage at 13, and a decades-long obsession with celibacy that gets deeply disturbing the closer you look. Gandhi and his wife Kasturba got married when Gandhi was 13 and Kasturba was 14. His sexual desire towards her, or in nature, was so strong that he actually writes about it in a letter saying, "I have already said that Kasturba was illiterate. I was very anxious to teach her, but lustful love left me no time." His perspective on his desires would suddenly and drastically change in the very near future. There was a time when Gandhi's father became extremely sick and it was Gandhi's turn to take care of his father. Around 10:30 or 11 p.m., he was giving a massage to his father when his uncle offered to relieve him from his duties for the night. He was happy and went straight to his wife in their bedroom. Soon after, the same night, his father passes away. This is the key turning point when his view of intimacy shifts from something natural to something unnatural and shameful. He was so full of guilt that he had let his lust win while he should have been spending time with his father in his last moments. He again writes about this. The shame to which I have referred in a foregoing chapter was this shame of my carnal desire even at the critical hour of my father's death. And I have therefore always regarded myself as a lustful, though a faithful husband. It took me long to get free of the shackles of lust, and I had to pass through many ordeals before I could overcome it. In 1888, Harilal, Gandhi's first son, was born. In 1892, Gandhi's second son, Manilal, was born. Soon after, he had two more sons, Ramdas and Devdas. He then moved to South Africa as a lawyer. There, he started fighting for Indian worker rights and discrimination against the British rule. He quickly became popular amongst the Indian community in South Africa and started two ashrams. In 1904, he opened the first ashram, Phoenix Settlement, where his newspaper Indian Opinion would be printed. In his late 30s, while living in South Africa, his attitude towards sex fundamentally changes. This is approximately when he starts thinking about the best possible service to humanity. And he concludes the best answer is poverty and leading lust and sex-free life. In 1906, at the age of 38, he formally embraces brahmacharya. This is complete abstinence from sexual relationships. Brahmacharya as a concept is not unique to Gandhi. It's an ancient idea in Hindu and Jain philosophy, a discipline of celibacy and self-control that monks and spiritual seekers have practiced for centuries. So on paper, a middle-aged man deciding to become celibate after already raising a family isn't necessarily bizarre. For Gandhi, it wasn't just about sex. It was an entire lifestyle overhaul, including strict control over diet and daily habits. By 1907, he publicly wrote that it is the duty of every thoughtful Indian not to marry at all, and if they marry, not to engage in any intimacy. In 1910, Tolstoy Farms was created by Gandhi. It was his second ashram where his followers, some of his family and friends would reside. Soon, it would be known that he treated these ashrams like his labs. People would be required to do hard labor, cooking, cleaning toilets, while he would also run food experiments, enema experiments, where he would use enema due to constipation himself, but would also encourage others to perform it as well. However, making top of the experiment list was the celibacy experiments, brahmacharya, which also included others. He then made rules for the ashram, including women and men were to sleep separately, no smoking or drinking. Food had to be as simple as possible, no dairy. Meals would be eaten together, and hard labor was a requirement for everyone, including children. Children would get some form of education after the hard labor was completed. Every single decision was made by Gandhi, and his followers in the ashrams relied heavily on Gandhi. At this point, people were so blinded by their blind trust in Gandhi that no one would question the experiments that were being placed on children. He would send misbehaving boys to take baths with young innocent girls at the same time to practice self-restraint and to control themselves. He would then watch these teenagers to see if they were able to control themselves. He would also have these teenagers sleep next to each other in an open veranda while he also slept with these children. The purpose of this experiment was from a belief that boys and girls could live together without any harm. There was another instance where few teenagers were caught in intimate situations, and Gandhi was informed about this. He opposed the boys' behavior but thought the girls should have a further mark on them so that it sterilizes the sinner's eyes. He decided to cut the girls' hair even though the girls were against the idea. It placed the shame entirely only on the girls publicly so that boys would know to be careful of such girls. Then there was an instance where Gandhi's son Manilal had an intimate relationship with a woman named Jaki, whose husband was away in Fiji. As a result of this news, Gandhi went on a 7-day fast, almost as if he was using this as a tool to guilt trip his son, which he successfully did, because his son would also decide to go on a fast with Gandhi as well. Gandhi actually writes about this, saying that even if his son dies from this, Gandhi would not have any regrets. He then ordered Manilal to take a vow of celibacy for the rest of his life, and Manilal did exactly that, although he would later break the vow. However, Jaki was not let go of so easily. Jaki was also forced to fast, have her hair chopped off, take off her jewelry, and wear clothing of a mourning widow. She was later sent to her husband in Fiji, as Gandhi thought she did not have any remorse. He then goes on to write, "Never have I spent such days of agony as I am doing now. The heart seems to have gone dry. The agony I'm going through is unspeakable. I have often wanted to take out the knife from my pocket and put it through my stomach." His reaction about this was quite dramatic. So the question is it really because he was trying to preach celibacy and his own son would breach that? Or is it because Jaki was also one of the women who slept next to Gandhi during his own experiments? And perhaps this was some sort of twisted jealousy. Gandhi then returned to India and started an ashram in 1915. And at this point, he had already become a global icon. Continuing his work, he started a second ashram in India in 1917. By this point, he truly believed he was able to achieve so much due to his brahmacharya lifestyle, and therefore, his experiments and orders intensified. Husbands and wives were required to sleep in different rooms. Gandhi reached a point where he physically and mentally wanted to become a eunuch, in his own words. And in order to do this, he would have to put himself in situations where he could control his lust. He would do this by sleeping regularly next to the women in his ashram naked. This was to test if he's able to control his sexual desires. In his own letter, Gandhi writes, "Abba slept with me for 3 nights. Kanchan only 1 night. Veena sleeping with me can be considered an accident, but she slept close to me." It is to be noted that Abba was his grandson's wife, and he had been conducting these experiments since she was only 16 years old. The most controversial experiment was the one that took place with Manu Gandhi. Manu was Gandhi's grandniece. She lost her mother when she was only 13 years old, and therefore her caretaker was Kasturba, Gandhi's wife. Kasturba passed away when Manu was only 16, and then Gandhi took the mother's role in Manu's life. All small decisions in Manu's life were controlled by Gandhi. In 1946, in Noakhali, the situation had become very dire and violent due to the foreseeable partition in India. So he decided to go from village to spread his peaceful, non-violent movement. And during that time, his brahmacharya experiment was stalled because his followers had to separate and go to different villages to spread the word about his movement. As a result, he called his grandniece Manu, who was 19 at the time, to Noakhali. He would then test his lust, the ultimate test, by sleeping naked with his own grandniece. He told his grandniece that he was doing this for the nation and to maintain peace in united India. Imagine the moral pressure and manipulation placed on his grandniece that she had to do this with Gandhi to save a nation. This is when one of Gandhi's employees walked in on Gandhi and his grandniece lying naked next to each other, and the event sparked outrage. His secretary and interpreter both resigned after such experiments. His son, Devdas, also stated that Gandhi was on the wrong path. Some politicians also expressed their disapproval. Gandhi's actions weren't some secret nobody knew about. These experiments were openly known within his circle. Gandhi writes about all this himself to people in his newspaper and in his journals. According to researchers, Gandhi's own associates recognized that he was misusing his position and status in a way that was unethical, and they confronted him directly and eventually pushed him to stop. An academic account published in the Journal of History, it makes the point that according to one of the women's own testimony, she consented readily and there was no suggestion that Gandhi made improper advances that were sexual in nature or that he had harbored impure thoughts. Gandhi's followers argued that this was a genuine discipline and it was not predatory in nature. However, critics push back hard on that framing. They point out the obvious power imbalance: an elderly global political leader asking teenage relatives and young followers, many of whom likely felt they couldn't say no to the father of the nation, to get in bed with him naked. Whether you think he was truly a man doing experiments out of a genuine concern for the nation, or whether he was a sexually repressed pervert, I will leave that up to you. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Please click subscribe if you think this video was good. If you have any comments or feedback, please leave me a comment. Thank you.